The Ultimate Crafter's Companion is an all-in-one compact carry case which is going to allow you to score, measure, trim, emboss and embellish. You'll see that you've got all the tools you need for all of your paper crafting projects right here at your fingertips. Starting with the card making. With the card folding side of the board, you can fold any amount of different cards. On the reverse side of the board, you've got all of your envelope making facilities, and you can make envelopes in any shape and size to match all of your handmade card creations. You'll see here not only can we make regular envelopes, but we can do these three-dimensional box envelopes, which can house and protect even the most delicate and detailed of dimensional cards. We've got this beautiful decorative embossing, which you'll see featured throughout the board on all the different faces. We've also got a bow maker facility built in here, which we'll come to in a second. And when we open the tool out, it forms a complete working surface. Now on the inside, you'll see that you've got all of your box maker facilities, and you can make either box base or box lid, and this tool will ensure that your box fits together absolutely perfectly every single time. On the other side here, we've got all of your decorative embossing shapes for creating your cake cards and your pop-out cards. You'll also see that all of the tools that you needed come ready included in the storage compartment. Now we get a paper trimmer, you get the scoring and embossing tools, a full 24-page colour instruction booklet, your bow making pegs and the little mouse cutter. Now to get started, we'll start working on a card. The little black clip will hold everything together so you've got a secure working surface. Now you can work with both A4 and A5 cardstock. And for a very basic card, I'm going to use the half fold line for that specific paper size. This will put the crease line in exactly the right place to give you a card which meets absolutely perfectly. You also find that you get a very, very professional crease on the spine. Now that is a very simple card. Progressing on from this, we can do a gatefold. In exactly the same way, we use the gatefold line for the same size of card. Emboss the line, turn around, emboss the line again, and what you'll find is these lines will be perfectly positioned so that your card meets absolutely perfectly in the centre. Now this here is a gatefold card with a little bit of decoration, and you can see that when you've got an interesting card shape, you don't need to do an awful lot to it to give a very professional finish. Now we can take this a little bit further and also put in place the half fold line. This will then give us a 4-fold concertina card. Now you'll see with the 4-fold concertina card, this is exactly the same card, but you can see what we've done is we've cut away a section of the card to make a decorative edge. And again, that gives you a fantastic shaped card with not an awful lot of decoration. Now all of these cards are explained in detail in the instruction book, which you will find in the storage compartment. So you can see with the instruction book, it talks us through the most basic cards that we've just looked at, progressing on to the more detailed cards, right up to the accordion cards that we've been looking at. And next, we're going to look at the pop-out cards. Now for the pop-out cards, we need to use our decorative embossing shapes. And you'll see you've got the larger and the smaller shape here. Now for my embossing, I'm going to use the largest head of the embossing tool. And you'll see across the special tools that we've got, you've got numerous different size heads to work with the different lines. What you'll find is the larger the embossing head, the easier it is to actually emboss. So we position our card in place over the embossed line, sit our tool in the channel and follow the embossed shape around. Now what you'll find is the tool will sit inside the channel and will only emboss where there is a pattern. So if you go outside of the lines, you don't need to worry because it will always be perfect on the other side. Then we can simply cut around the outside of our embossed line, and this will leave us with an aperture to make a pop-out card. Now on the other side of the board, you'll see that on many of the different faces, we've got lots of decorative embossing shapes. With these decorative embossing patterns, you simply lie the card face down over the pattern. Again, working with the largest head embossing tool, we just emboss down the line. And you'll see how easy the tool glides. And that's because these tools are made of a special plastic which has an inbuilt embossing lubricant to make embossing really easy, no matter what your level of crafting ability. Now, to put the complete card together, what we need to do is put adhesive all over the face of our card, and I'm going to use a spray adhesive for that. So we simply spray and cover the complete surface. Bring in the first card that we were working with, rest it against the button edge, pop the first piece of card down, turn around and go in with the second piece. And in a few minutes, you have a beautiful pop-out card. And it's not that you need to have the Ultimate Pro to make beautiful cards like this, but you saw that this card took me 2 minutes to make, not 20 minutes. And that is the idea with the Ultimate Pro. All of the different card styles that we can make, all of the scoring, the measuring, the calculating has all been done for you, so you can make beautiful cards in an instant. Now we can take this card a little bit further and decorate it by creating an embossed shape to dangle. And you'll find all these embossed patterns on the underside of the board. You can progress on from a card like this to make something like the little book that we've got here. And this is simply 4 or 5 of these cards put back to back to create one complete book. Now, every card needs an envelope, and we can create all of the matching envelopes on the underside of the Ultimate Pro. Now for the envelope making, we're going to use the very, very small head embossing tool to give a fine precision emboss. Now we can make either regular envelopes, or for cards such as this one here that are a little bit thicker, we can make a 3-dimensional box envelope. Now all of the instructions are explained in detail in the book. And what you'll find is you get full guidelines for all of your standard size cards. You also get special guidelines on the previous page which talk you through how to make custom size envelopes for new and unusual shaped cards. Now for this card here, I can reference the standard size against the size that we have in the book, and it tells me exactly what paper size and which lines I need to use. So I've cut my paper to size accordingly, and I'm going to position it in place right in the very, very corner of the board like this. And the first line it told me to use was line C. So we start with C at the base and follow the line upwards. For a regular envelope, that's all you need to do. For the 3-dimensional box envelope, you'll see that we've got the small little nook just here, and we can sit the paper back in there and emboss the same line a second time. Now you need to do the same line on opposite corners. So I'm repeating the C line into the little notch and C again. And then on the opposite corner we do the other lines, which in this example was E. And then in the corners we simply cut out the pieces that we don't need to use. And this will help the envelope fall together perfectly. Now because we've used the precision embossing tool, you'll see that these lines will fold into place perfectly and really find their way to give a crisp professional edging to the box. Then to stick everything together, we just use a small amount of double-sided tape, and we're just going to stick down the 2 inside edges of the envelope and a little bit on the top. And when we release the backing, the envelope will fall together perfectly, and the small flap will simply tuck under into place. Now what you'll find is that envelope will be the absolute perfect size to fit the card that we've just made. And to add a finishing touch, we can use the decorative embossing on the board, sit this into place and follow the embossed shape. And it really does add a very, very professional finishing touch. So that is the envelope making. Inside the board, you'll see that as well as having the special tools and the instruction book, you will also find the cutter. Now the cutter clips into place in the centre of the board and hinges at one end. It will actually fit both ways into the board depending on your cutting preferences. Now if we take a piece of cardstock, sit it under the ruler, the cutting mouse sits in place in the ruler and you pull towards you. You've got all of your measurements in both inches and centimetres on 2 axes. And the special little cutting mouse opens up to house a standard size blade, which can very easily be replaced. These tools all sit in place in the storage compartment, and in here you will also find the small pegs, and these are for doing your bow making. Now on the top side of the board you'll see that we've got a selection of different holes. Depending on the size of bow you want to make, we can either do a very, very large bow, a tiny little mini bow, or anything in between. And you need to cut a piece of ribbon, and with this ribbon we wrap around the pegs and then cross. The piece at the top goes underneath, we come back over and simply tie a knot. And if you have many bows to make, this way you will be guaranteed of having a perfect bow every single time. Now if you start with a longer piece of ribbon, we can make a multi-bow. And all we do for the multi-bow is to go around and cross. We come back around a second time and cross, or even a third time if you wish, and cross. And then as with the regular bow, we go under, over, and tie a knot. And this will give you an absolutely perfect triple bow. And you can repeat this procedure as many times as you like, with as many pieces of ribbon as you like, to make beautiful decorative elements to finish off your cards and boxes. Speaking of boxes, we've got all the box making facilities we need inside the board. So if we pop these back into place, you'll see that the box maker is actually on the inside of the board. And we've got a dedicated box lid and box base section. And this is to ensure that when you make a box, your lid and base will fit together absolutely perfectly. Now you must start with 2 pieces of cardstock which are exactly the same size, exactly the same. And the board will make one piece slightly larger than the other when your lid and base come to fit together. Now using the medium head embossing tool, I'm going to start with the box base. We rest against the base, and these different lines represent the depth of your box. So I'm going to use line 2, which means I must emboss this line on all 4 sides. And because we've used line 2 for the box base, we must repeat the same technique on the other side of the board for the box lid. Again, working on all 4 sides. You can then use the side of the tool to burnish the crease lines to give a very, very strong professional crease to the side of your box. Now notice I'm working with coated pearlescent paper. With any paper you must always score on the coated side, and this will mean that you get a slight expansion in the coating so that when you fold the creases you won't get any cracking. Now in each of the corners we need to cut up to the crease line and from the corner. And it doesn't matter how big the notch is that you cut from the corner, as long as you always bring that notch exactly from the corner. On the second piece we do exactly the same thing, and that will give you an element for the box pieces to fit together inside. Now you must always use a wet glue when putting your boxes together, and you only need a very tiny amount on each of the corners. Now while you're holding the corners in place to dry, you can use either a paper clip or a clothes peg just to hold this for a few minutes to allow the adhesive to set permanent. Now you repeat exactly the same procedure with the base of our box and then lay those to one side for a few minutes to rest. Once they are dry, you'll find that you get two matching pieces which fit together exactly perfectly. So we have the base, which will be made a tiny little bit smaller than the lid so that the two will always come together like this. Now this is just a regular rectangular box. You'll see in the instruction book we talk about making triangular, hexagonal, diamond shaped boxes, all of which are completed in exactly the same way in using one side for the base and one side for the lid with two identical sized pieces of cardstock. An alternative box that you could do is what we call a wedge box. And again, this is explained in the instruction book. And for the wedge box, we simply take a piece of cardstock, we score it halfway, turn the card, mark the halfway point at the top and bottom of our cardstock, and then simply join together the lines. Now these make fantastic favour boxes at weddings or for parties, as table decorations, to go on the Christmas tree, and they're very, very quick and easy to make and can be made in all different sizes. Again, we're just burnishing all of the crease lines to bring our box together. And in a matter of seconds, we've made a beautiful wedge box. Now again, they can be done in all different shapes and in all different sizes. And this is just one of the many hundreds of ideas that you can do using your Ultimate Crafters Companion.